So that was a movie. Hi, welcome to Connie's Corner. I'm Constance, and this is my spoiler review of House of Gucci. Um, I saw it earlier today. I've taken a few hours to think about what I just saw so I can talk about it, but I'm going to try to get through the quagmire that is this movie, right? Okay, so first of all, I did a trailer reaction to this movie, and my perception of what I thought I was going to get doesn't match what I got. And that's really going to hang me up. I watched the trailer and I thought to myself, oh, okay, it's going to be like Godfather, Goodfellas kind of movie, but not done straight. I thought, oh, they're going to do it through the lens of like the 1960s Batman with Adam West, like let's take something that people might recognize as a traditional biopic but turn it on its head a little bit as some sort of commentary or something like that. That's not the movie I got. The movie's very sincere. It's trying very, very hard to, it wants you to take it seriously, I think. See, that's the problem. I largely liked it, but I can't ignore the flaws that are there. So I made some notes. So I'm going to tell you what I thought was good, and then I'll tell you what I think is bad, because mixed. I hate that word. I guess it's mixed. Everyone's talking about the cast of this film, and deservedly so. The cast is great. Yes, Lady Gaga is great. Everyone's talking about her. The only thing I don't agree with is everyone's acting like it's her movie exclusively, and everyone else is just kind of there. I don't agree with that. It's called House of Gucci. It's not like it's called Patricia Gucci or, some sort of play on who she is as a person. We spend so much time with all the characters, all the major players, that it feels more like an ensemble piece. So what I did get, I liked, but it would have been nice if they made it more even if they were going to show all these characters in the way that they did. It feels like a lot of ideas, and here's a little snippet of something we want to do, but we're not going to commit and actually finish that thought process, So Gaga is amazing. What can I say that hasn't already been said more eloquently by everybody else? She's great. People are not talking about Adam Driver as much as they should. I thought he was also wonderful. In the beginning, he's so sweet and, genuine. And by the end, you're like, oh my God, this guy's a sociopath. Like you go from kind of liking the guy to really not liking the guy. At least I did. Al Pacino is Al Pacino. He does great. He's perfect for this kind of performance. And I believe his character. I believe that he really cares about Gucci, and, it's the things that are sacred, and he wants to protect what he's done, because he was the one holding the empire up, at least in this version of the story. Now, I'm not one of these people where I'm taking this story as this is how it went down. I know they changed things, but the story that was presented to me, I believed his character as being the person who's like, no, the reason Gucci's a thing right now is because that was my doing. I believed him, right? People aren't talking about Jeremy Irons very much either. Now, I understand he's not on screen for very long. His character's, old enough and then gets ill and then passes away. So we don't get as much time with him as we could. What we do get, I like. Very good job. I see where his character's coming from with the whole don't marry her. She's not going to be good for you. Definitely having that I'm a snob, but he kind of has earned it. Like you understand, even though he's an ass. So he's both. Leto, he's the only thing that's in both my good and my bad column. What's good about Jared Leto with any role that he takes, once he decides this is who my character is, he doesn't half-ass it. He goes there. He is not afraid to commit. So if it's important to you that an actor gives you everything, like they just 1000% commit, you're going to get that with Jared Leto. Is it good? I don't know. I think it depends on the scene we're talking about. And it also depends on what kind of movie is this, right? Is it meant to be a camp thing? Because if that's the case, he went there and Gaga joined him at times. But if it's not supposed to be a campy thing, whoa, is he just wandered in from another movie? I think it depends. All the reviews I've read, people are either saying he's a genius or he's a hot mess. I guess we each have to decide, where are we? Because there's no gray zone here. He's either a hot mess or he's a genius, apparently, based on what I've read so far. So by and large, the cast is great. I liked watching them. I could keep watching them. That's not a problem. Love the clothes, since this is about a fashion, you know, legacy family. I'm not a fashion person, and it's not that the movie's about fashion, but I do appreciate that they take the time to make sure that everyone looks good. They feel of their time, without being too on the nose like some other elements in this movie. So they looked good. I really do love the love story that's in the beginning of this movie. So Patrizia and Maurizio, when they're dating and all that, it actually reminded me a lot of me and my husband. I'm not at all like Patrizia, but my husband is so much like this character. He's tall and he's quiet and he's all like, oh, hi, and sweet. That's how my dating years looked. It was very much like, he's like, oh, I don't know, I'm so awkward. And I'm like, come on, it'll be fun. That was just very down to earth and relatable, which is nice. They didn't make them too like godlike or otherworldly, where you feel like, oh, that's how pretty people live, but not regular people like me. So I liked all that stuff. I do like the business side of it. A lot of people say they don't like where at some point in the movie, it's not really about their marriage anymore. It suddenly becomes about the business. I actually like that stuff. I don't like that you set up this love story and then you switch gears and then it becomes like, pick one or the other, or find a way to do both, but in a more symbiotic kind of way. So I didn't hate that those elements were there. I like all the businessy stuff. That stuff's great. And I do like the overall themes. I don't think the movie achieves this, but they present enough ideas where you're like, oh, all you had to do was just keep going in that direction and it would have been magic. So I like the idea of, if you have all this power, it makes you greedy and it corrupts you more, and then you betray your family. I mean, these are not brand new ideas, but what they put in front of you to think about these topics was interesting. I just wanted more of it, I don't know. I did not really laugh at this movie, but my audience was a very good audience. They were definitely Gaga fans. It didn't matter what she did, it got a response. People laughed, people cheered. Like when that blonde chick shows up, I didn't catch her name, that becomes the mistress. And at the end, when they embrace, and then she goes, all right, now take this lady out of my house. That got a huge cheer. People love that, and I agreed with the moment. I just wasn't mentally in that state, but people in my theater were excited. So that was fun. Moments like that were wonderful, right? So it had a lot of good, but we do need to talk about what's not so good about this movie. I'll give you a couple little ones to start off with. The color palette for this movie, like how just the film looked, it was like washed out and muted, and I don't understand. I was expecting this to be like a bold, colorful, kind of thing. So I'm surprised. I did not like the soundtrack. It was really in your face, like, you're in the 70s, discotheque, you're in the 80s. Oh, like, I don't know. I didn't like the soundtrack. It was just too in my face, I already touched on the story a little bit, but again, I love the love story. I love the business story, but they decided to do just love story, then stop, switch gears, go to this business story. I don't know. You definitely had that feeling of they couldn't make up their mind. So that affects the tone. Are we supposed to feel empathy for these people? Because there were times when I felt really bad for Paolo, like maybe he was this brilliant designer and nobody understood him. I don't know the real person. I don't know anything about the real story behind this. This is all brand new information to me, even though this happened not too long ago. I just missed all that. So I didn't know anything about what happened. And I purposely kept it that way until the movie's over. I've been reading a little bit since then, but I only have a couple hours worth of info. So take that as you will. So I'm not speaking to the real people. I'm just speaking to what this movie's putting out there. I'm confused if we're supposed to feel bad for them, if we're supposed to revel in like, oh, look at these people and how they fall. Oh, it's so deliciously wonderful. You know, I couldn't tell if we were supposed to be laughing at them or going, oh, poor them, you know, like, or maybe it was supposed to be a mix, but it didn't mix in the right way, you know? And another big thing, this is all, I have a list here, but they all kind of go together. Structurally, what I had a problem with this movie is I think it's weird that it opened with narration. I don't hate narration, but it opens with narration and it's Patrizia narrating. So it makes you think, okay, if she's narrating, then this is her movie. It's from her point of view. But then they just drop that part way. And when you get to the ending's the real thing I have a problem with. Suddenly we have text. There's no narration. Now it's like, just read this and read that. Now, that's not unique to this movie. Biopics in general, if they do the whole, let's cover either a person's entire life or a very, very big chunk, like what we think is the most important bit, it's very hard to tell an entire person's life in one movie. Movies are short compared to your life. So how do you decide what's important? How much do you show so that you feel for this person? So they can't help but do the whole, well, we're running out of time, so why don't we just give you a little paragraph to say, we're going to stop here, but this is what happened next. In this exact case, it was just so unfulfilling. Some of the other reviews I want to talk about, you know, people have said the movie's boring. I don't agree with that. I think because I couldn't really navigate the waters of where we were going, I was on my toes enough to go, what are we doing now? Who are we going to hang out with now? What's happening next? I have no idea. I wasn't bored. I wouldn't use the word boring. And a lot of people have said that the pacing's bad or that it's too long. I don't know if the movie's too long, but I think if this is the length of time you have, just use your time wisely. I think they wasted time. Now, maybe that's what people mean when they say boring or it's too long. Maybe that's what they mean. And I think it's unfortunate that, okay, did we have to spend all this time doing these things? Like, whose story is this? Because we're with Adam Driver the most. I'm like, is this really his movie? Like, is it the ending is just so abrupt. And I don't like that they go from not telling you anything. Oh, we don't like how this turned out in 1993. I'm like, oh, we get a year drop. Like, thank you. Because in the very beginning, they tell us it's like 1978. I think not too long after that, they mentioned that it's 80 something, but then they don't put years on anymore. So you have no sense of how is time going by, how much time has gone by. And they just have this weird line drop where they go, oh yeah, we don't like that this happened in 90, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, we're in the 90s now? How did that happen? It doesn't feel like that much time has gone by. And then they get to the murder and then they go, oh yeah, 2 years later, she gets convicted and then everyone dies. What? Show us that. Why are we spending so much time at, we go to 2 of the uncle's birthday parties. You know, they sing happy birthday to him twice. What's that about? Why do we have 2 whole scenes like that? Have the murder and then show us what happened between the murder and when she got arrested. I mean, did they know the whole time that it was her? You know, how did they find out? You know, what was she going through? That would have been fascinating to watch. I think they had so many good ideas, but they just gave you a little taste and they're like, oh, you want more? Oh, sorry, you can't have more. And that's just like, you know, it felt like it was all foreplay and no sex. Does that make sense? So I liked what they gave me. I just give me more, you know, rearrange a couple things. Because I thought it was more good than bad, you know. A couple other little things that I think was bad. Selma Hayek, she wasn't bad. It's just, and I know that Patrizia did have a psychic, I don't know if friend is the right word, but you know, became her accomplice, and I guess they had to introduce her and then put her in there periodically, just be like, oh, she's here, she's gonna be important later, so remember her. So underused. I don't know what's going on with Salma Hayek. Kind of like how in Eternals, she was in the movie, but kind of not in that movie. It's like, let's use her sparingly. She's only allowed to come out for like a couple days of shooting, and then we have to tuck her away again. What's that about? I don't get it. Another thing I don't like, and this is more of a nitpick, is, and all biopics do this, I don't understand why they changed as many facts as they did. I understand that a human life does not move in a narrative manner. We don't have exposition, rise in action, climax, and then you tidy it all up and wrap it up with a bow. Real life doesn't move that way. You have to move something so that there can be a narrative. But they change things that's like, what was the point of changing that? Like in the movie, if the movie was all you were going to use to say you're an expert on this, because people are going to do that. There's people like, I know everything there is to know about Gucci because they saw this movie. It's like, no, they change things because that's what movies do. Never use movies as your source of this is how something went down. We don't know what happened behind closed doors. A quick Google search and you'll see that they didn't have just one child, they had children. Now, the children are not that important to this story, clearly, but why omit a child? Why not show that there were multiple children? It makes it all the more tragic, Why do they move when they meet? They have the meeting in the late 70s and they actually met in the early 70s. Like, you should show just how long they were together. These are nitpicks. They're not that important, especially to the story they chose to tell. But I don't know. I never understood why biopics change what they change. I love biopics, but they do have flaws. If you want some good thoughts, you should follow Jack. He's his YouTube channel is Oscar Film Forecast. I agree with him on biopics that do the whole from cradle to grave, or as much of that as possible, because maybe a person's not dead yet. It's flawed. And I'm bringing up the specific flaws here of why do you do these little things? So it's not even House of Gucci specific, but it also falls to that. And that's unfortunate. Yeah, but it was mostly good. I actually liked it a lot more. I was so afraid. I saw that people weren't liking it. Well, critics weren't liking it, at least. My audience had a good time. I liked what I saw. I just wanted more, it was so close. It's really unfortunate. I would recommend it, because some things are just nitpicky things, and some things I'm like, well, I just thought I was getting a campy kind of take, and it was more trying to be straightforward, but it jumped around a little bit. All the criticisms about it doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be, or it's 3 movies in one, or 2 movies in one, depending on how you're dissecting it. I think all that's true. It's just depending on how you want to splice it up. I can get past that. I will happily watch this movie again. That would be fine. If you're at all curious as to what everyone's talking about, if you're a Lady Gaga fan, if you like biopics, no matter what form they come in, because they do have a scale that they're on, I think it's worth a watch. I don't regret seeing it. I'm happy to come here and now talk about it with you. So those are my spoiler thoughts on House of Gucci. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.